All right, Nick, let's talk about the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders, there's a lot of great picks in this draft. We like a lot of the guys they got and were able to get. And when we get after the draft, we like to dig deep and look at some of the value they got. But this time we had to dig deeper than just the draft. We have to go undrafted. There's one guy in particular the Raiders picked up that we think was a really special player. Let's get into the article and then we'll talk more about it all on the other side. This is from Raiders Wire. It says the Raiders' undrafted free agent class was a little weaker this year compared to previous off seasons, and NIL is likely the reason why. However, the Raiders were able to add a multi-year starter to their offensive line with a ton of big game experience. That player was none other than Andrew Coker, an offensive tackle from Texas Christian University. Here is what the site has to say about Coker and his fit with the Raiders. Coker was a stalwart on the TCU offensive line over the last 3 seasons, logging close to 2,000 snaps split across both tackle spots. The Raiders' offensive line has been in dire need of starting talent and depth over the last few seasons, and a strong training camp could see Coker in contention for a place on the depth chart. Now, Nick, I think this is a great value pickup for the Raiders. If he is able to get some starting time on this Raiders offensive line, this would probably be one of the bigger steals of the draft, especially on the Raiders side of things. Curious what your thoughts are, but Raiders fans, in the comment section below, as you dig through the draft, as we get later, day 3 undrafted free agents, that's what we're talking about here. Who are guys that you're excited to see in camp? Who do you think is going to be the ones that stand out and rise to the top out of all these guys in the later rounds or they were undrafted? Let us know who you're the most excited to look at in the comment section below. But Nick, what are your thoughts on Coker for the Raiders?
So to me, he's one of these interesting kind of prospects that was good and solid and productive and played a lot at high level TCU, big time competition in college football. Maybe not SEC level, but still quality play. In fact, he started a national championship game a couple of years ago when TCU had that magical run to the national championship game. So we know he can play in big time college football. We know he was experienced, was a 4-year starter. We know he's got the dimensions. He's 6'7", 315 pounds with 34-inch long arms, according to NFL.com. So he checks those boxes. People are a little concerned about Coker just because he wasn't spectacular in terms of anything he particularly did. Right. He didn't just completely negate and just stalwart pass rushers at the line of scrimmage. He didn't drive, block, and pancake people in the running game. He wasn't an incredible athlete that could pull around and do a million different things. He was just a solid quality tackle for 4-year starter in college football. And look, obviously, when you get a guy as an undrafted free agent, you know there's going to be some flaws and some concerns. And the reality is most undrafted free agents don't become quality players. But I think this is a great get for the Raiders because this is a guy who has the mental makeup to play tackle for an NFL team. And let me explain why. Big time college football, and we talk about this a lot on our college channel, has over the past decade or so shifted into being basically NFL light. The strategies, the schemes, the mindsets are very similar now between college football and the NFL. Everything's about the quarterback. Everything's about protecting the quarterback, and everything on defense in college is about getting to the quarterback. So if you can play 4-year starter tackle like Coker obviously did, this is a guy who basically spent 4 years having an NFL mindset quarterback behind him, pass rushers across from him, and did a pretty good job, right? So I think he's going to be able to mentally slide in and adjust to the strategies of the game the way some other players at other positions may not be able to, because he's basically been being a pro tackle for the last 4 years. And when you factor in, he's got all the ideal size, length, weight requirements, right? I know people don't like his athleticism, but look, I really don't care about your 40 and 3-yard shuttle. Can you move 2 steps to the left in pass pro? Can you move 2 steps to the right in pass pro? Can you move your feet to block a defensive tackle? Can you reach a defensive end and keep your feet moving? This guy can. He did it at a really high level in college. Look, and he's not a dominant force. No one's saying that he is. But I think the fact this guy slid out of the draft completely, considering what he did in college, I think was a little bit of a mistake, right? We'll see how he adjusts his game and adjusts his technique. He's got some things to clean up, of course. But the reality is he's just a good football player with a lot of experience who just wasn't great at anything and that wasn't a great athlete. So people didn't see him as a draft prospect. To me, these are the kind of guys that can add a lot of value to your roster just because they know how to play football at a high level. I love this move by the Raiders picking up Coker. I think he could be one of maybe the biggest steals in the entire undrafted free agent cycle.
Yeah, Nick, and you bring up a really great point because if we're being honest and we're talking about offensive line play here, how often is the offensive lineman gonna run 40 yards?
Yeah.
Probably not very often. It's either a really, really good thing that it's happening or a really, really bad thing when that's happening. So in the scheme of things, it's not very important. Even 20, even 10 yards offensive lineman, like you said, it's just, that first step quickness, being able to get off the ball quickly and move a couple steps to your left, couple steps to your right. That's about as far as they truly need to go if things go well. So I think some of the, athleticism, some of those things are always overblown for offensive line. And the example I always like to harken back to is Orlando Brown Jr. when he was drafted by the Baltimore Ravens. A lot of people passed on him early on because at Oklahoma, he just didn't have the athleticism. He didn't have the body type. People just saw him and said, kind of overweight. This is a guy, he's not super quick, super strong. But then you look at what he did in college, he was a really good player, just like Coker. This is a guy, honorable Big 12 mentioned in both of his last 2 years. And this is a guy who, Orlando Brown Jr., he did good stuff in college. He played at the highest level. He played in big games and showed that he was an adequate player, just like Coker. What happened? Orlando Brown Jr. comes to the NFL, shows out, and becomes one of the stars, starting left and right tackle for teams for many, many years to come. I think Coker can do just that kind of thing. He comes out. He's really interesting because his last year, especially, he played left tackle and right tackle almost an even amount of games, which is very impressive if you're able to flip back and forth on a team like Texas Christian, where you're playing pretty good competition in the Big 12. It's not a joke. And I'm not saying any of these other conferences are jokes, but like, it's not like WAC or like MEAC or something like that. This is a guy who's playing pretty high level football and flipping sides. That's very impressive to me. So I think at the very least, the Raiders got a really good guy who can play both sides of the ball and fit in where necessary. But I think they potentially have themselves a good quality starting tackle or guard for the future.
Well, and especially when you dive into the scouting report for Coker, and it just is kind of bizarre why he was downgraded. And I'll go into the NFL.com one here to highlight here for a second to finish it off. But if you look at his strengths, again, according to Lance Zierlein at NFL.com, they say he's a 4-year starter with good size and length. That's good. Punch is well timed and he uses active hands. That's pretty good. Mirrors through engagement with good balance and base. That's important for offensive line play. Typically utilizes inside hands, not outside, inside hands when fitting up the run block. That's good. Avoids penalties. Plays with good timing. That's really good. Smooth skip pull with adequate speed to lead block in space. Okay, all that sounds great. What's going on here? His weaknesses: leaves his feet behind his hands as a run blocker. Okay, so that's a technical thing maybe to clean up, but that's not a huge deal. Segmented into run blocks with below average reactive agility. Okay, that just sounds like words on a page, right? Come on, that's what are we talking about here? Another weakness: needs to keep shoulders square longer in pass sets. Okay, NFL coach will clean that up. Footwork gets panicky and sloppy when rush heats up. Okay, every offensive tackle's footwork gets panicky and sloppy when you're going up against, Micah Parsons or a TJ Watt, right? That can be cleaned up. And here's another final weakness: can be too easy to dislodge his anchor with power. Again, clean up with an NFL coaching, that can all be cleaned up very easily. So his strengths are all innate talent things, which checks every box: timing, size, length, productivity. And his weaknesses are either just weird words written on a scouting report or things a coach can clean up, right? Again, it just feels like the Raiders got something that could potentially be a steal here in Coker. Again, a lot of warts to clean up here, but I think the Raiders could have something potentially special and maybe even undrafted free agent starter in the future in this offensive tackle.
Data brokers sell your information to scammers, spammers, and anyone else who may want to target you. Your full name, email, home address, health records, even your relatives. It's all out there. That's why we use Aura, the sponsor of today's video. Aura shows us which data brokers are selling our information and automatically submits opt out requests for us.
Cleaning up our information not only reduces the amount of that stupid spam we all get, but it also protects us from hackers who could use this information to help them access our social media accounts, bank accounts, and other sensitive information. Aura also does much more to protect us and our families from online threats. We also get features like antivirus protection, VPNs, password management, parental controls, identity theft insurance, and more without having to download several different apps. That's really key. One location, get all this great stuff. It's really easy to set up. And the best of all, we get everything at one affordable price.
And you may already have one or two of these tools already, but not having Aura is like locking the front door and leaving the back door wide open. Aura is always on, doing the hard work to keep you safe so you can focus on other tasks and have peace of mind. We value our privacy and we value yours. You can go to aura.com/Saturday to start your 2-week free trial. Also, link below in the description. Again, aura.com/Saturday for your free 2-week trial.